And of course, if you want to get involved in the show, you know the number 0344 499 1000, or text us using the word talk to 87222. Tweet us at TalkTV or at Tice Richard. I will get to as many of those as possible. A thought occurred to me this week about my sermons. I think now more people are listening to my Sunday sermon than Archbishop Welby's sermons. And it's not surprising, given how he behaves. More of that later. But the reason is, of course, you see, we practice the religion of common sense here at Talk TV, and I think that's what people want to hear. But on this Sunday, we need in this sermon to talk about the issue of Brexit. Because in any walk of life, whatever you do, whatever you've done, if you're going to do a job, do it properly. And if you think after all the debate, the angst, the rancour, the votes, the elections, the referendums, the anxiety, the divisiveness, the truth is, no one likes a half job. I mean, when you get a kitchen installed, you don't just install half a kitchen. When you paint a room, you don't only half paint it or just put on the undercoat and not bother with the overcoat. And this has been the week when the truth has been revealed about the attitude by this government, this Tory government, towards Brexit. Because in reality, this is the week that they have abandoned Brexit, in my humble view. Absolutely extraordinary. You remember those slogans? We're going to take back control of our money, of our laws, and our borders. Yes, simple, effective slogan. Well, let's just take a look, shall we, at those three simple things. Money. Well, way back when, in the negotiations, we paid a huge divorce fee. Badly negotiated, unnecessary, wrongly timed in terms of the sequencing of negotiations, about 40 billion quid, give or take. But that gave us the right to cut taxes, to cut VAT, to go for growth, to increase the wealth of all of us. But the truth is, what the Tories did, having paid that vast, unnecessary divorce sum, is instead of cutting taxes and going for growth, no, they've done the opposite. They've raised taxes, and we've got flatlining growth, at best. Figures out just last week. Flatlining for the first quarter of this year. Minus 0.3% GDP in March alone. So that ambition about taking control of our money and going for growth has been abandoned by the Tories, given up. So let's be a bit more optimistic and look at taking back control of our laws, shall we? Well, the idea was that we'd cut the thousands of daft EU regulations, red tape, bureaucracy that add costs to business, many of whom are completely unnecessary, don't apply here in the UK. Some over 50,000 laws. So the idea of a bill, what they call the sort of the retained EU law bill, to scrap a relatively modest ambition of 4,000 of them, less than 10%, by the end of 2023 seemed sensible, not that ambitious, not that difficult to achieve. But now the business secretary, one of the great hopes of the Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch, first of all, she got an absolute right rollicking from the Speaker of the House for giving up her plans via a newspaper. But she's abandoned that plan of 4,000 laws to get rid of those, to look at those. No, she's basically said it's too difficult, my civil servants aren't up to the job, and so we might do a few hundred by the end of this year. Really? It's just unbelievable. Where's her spirit, her drive, her guts, her leadership, her ambition to do the right thing, for heaven's sake? And now in today's Sunday Express, you've got a ridiculous, absurdly weak and wet article by David Davis, Liam Fox and Andrea Leadsom, for heaven's sake, defending this utter, woeful lack of ambition. Unbelievable. Truly extraordinary. I'm going to remind you what Rishi Sunak wrote during his leadership campaign on the 16th of July last year in a newspaper. Today he wrote, "I make a promise. If I'm elected Prime Minister, by the time of the next election, I will have scrapped or reformed all of the EU laws, red tape and bureaucracy that's still in our statute book and slowing economic growth." right sentiment, totally hopeless in delivery. I'm going to tell it as it is, folks. Rishi Sunak is a compulsive liar. He is a charlatan. He is the king of the U-turn. I mean, he makes Boris Johnson look like the god of truth, for heaven's sake. So having lied, as I've just proved, about EU laws, of course, he's the man who lied about fracking. He said he supported it. The first thing he did was to ditch it. He hasn't followed up on his promises on smart motorways. It's unbelievable. If I was in charge, I'd fire a bunch of useless civil servants that weren't prepared to do the job. I'd hire about 30 decent private sector lawyers, smart business people. We'd rattle through all these laws. We'd have the job done pretty much sorted by the end of the summer holidays, presented to the House of Commons in September, and it would be sorted on the statute book by the late autumn, October time. And then we'd move on to a bunch more. It's a thing called a can-do attitude, completely unknown within the civil service. And now we hear and see the evidence that it's completely unknown within this Conservative government. I don't think Rishi Sunak is a real Brexiteer. He's a globalist. I think what he's done is a bit of a nod and a wink deal with Ursula von der Leyen in the sort of the corridors, the backdoor corridors. You remember that Windsor framework, which was also a con, by the way? I think he quietly said to her, don't worry, we won't deviate, we won't sort out these daft EU laws that are slowing our growth. And there's the proof, literally this quarter, no growth. No growth at all. The two are intrinsically linked. If you raise taxes, if you have daft laws that hinder growth and hinder business, we don't get wealthier. So there we are. So they've abandoned taking back control of our money. They've abandoned taking back control of our laws. But let's be optimistic. Let's hope they're going to take back control of our borders. Excuse me if I vomit. I mean, seriously, this is where it goes from bad to worse. We've talked multiple times about the tens of thousands of illegal immigrants coming across the English Channel, the fact there's some 150,000 backlog of asylum seekers, most of whom are simply economic opportunists. We've seen the criminals within them coming across and joining criminal gangs here. That's on the illegal side, when there should be zero illegal immigration. And there's absolutely no chance that the latest illegal migration bill will make any difference whatsoever. The House of Lords and the lefty lawyers will see to that. No, let's be optimistic. Let's look at the lawful immigration. Because the last 4 Conservative manifestos have all said that they want to reduce immigration numbers. But this is the week that we've had a forecast analysis by the Centre for Policy Studies that says the net immigration, lawful immigration, in 2022 from January to December figures out on Thursday the 25th, so about 11 days' time. They're forecasting a net 1 million people. I'll say that again just in case you've fallen over. A net 1 million people. That's the size of Birmingham. Yes, there's another Birmingham that has arrived last year. It's quite extraordinary, and we're almost halfway through this year where the same rules apply and one can assume the same sort of numbers are arriving. 1 million people is about the need for 450,000 homes on the basis of just over 2 people per dwelling. In the last 50 years, not once have we built more than 250,000 homes. We've only got to 250,000 in 3 of those 50 years. So we're 200,000 homes short just in 2022. And now you wonder why young people are complaining that housing is unaffordable. This is a complete and utter betrayal of the British people, and that the truth is that this Conservative government, they've abandoned not just Brexit, they've abandoned any hope of affordable housing. And therefore, they've abandoned hope for young people to get on the housing ladder. They've also abandoned millions of people who've been left to stay, essentially sort of scrap them, left to stay on benefits. Instead, they're succumbing to the wishes of big business to allow ever more workers coming in from overseas with their dependents. And let's be honest, we have to say it, sometimes they share our values, but sometimes they don't share our values or our culture. So if you think you had Birmingham, an extra Birmingham last year, the likelihood is we'll have another Birmingham this year. The numbers could even be higher. So the Tories have also basically abandoned the chance of easing the pressure on GPs, the pressure on dentists, the pressure on the ambulances, the pressure on A&E wards, A&E departments, on hospital wards, hospital beds, the pressure on operation waiting lists. Basically, the Tories have abandoned the country in terms of managing it properly. I think we've got to just tell it as it is. The real truth is, the country, give or take, is full. We need a serious period pause in order to allow a catch-up. We don't need a net 1 million coming in every year. We need net zero immigration. That's the only net zero this country wants and should have. Because I don't think over the next decade this country wants or can cope with 10 more Birminghams. But that's the way we're headed at the moment. So as I say, they've abandoned not just Brexit, they've abandoned responsible government for the British people. And the result is that all of us will suffer a lower quality of life, with worse public services, and indeed, therefore, our health will suffer. All of this under a Conservative government who've completely failed to live up to their promises in manifesto after manifesto after manifesto. I am literally raging. I'm steaming out of every orifice of my body. I'm absolutely fuming at this abandonment of the British people, abandonment of good government. It is appalling, and it is a complete betrayal of everything that Brexit was about. They've abandoned taking back control of our money, of our laws, and our borders. And with that, I think I better end the Sunday sermon so that I can just calm down. Here endeth my Sunday sermon.